You're listening to the SS Experience.
Who this nigga on that name?
On SMG. Not too much really going on right now, so I just wanted to give you an update in the world of sports. And when I say update, I'm really just talking about any time that we can really talk about sports, because this is not really the time for sports, but I'm going to find a way to talk about sports. So when I talk sports, I talk with a guy that really knows a lot about sports, ESPN Radio's Thomas Simmons, and we're going to talk a little bit about the recent episodes of Last Dance. Transitioning from the NFL to my favorite sport, the NBA, The Last Dance, highlighting the 1990s Bulls dynasty, but specifically focusing on the 97-98 year, which was crazy. Like, I was definitely I was like 15 or 14. I was a teenager, you know what I'm saying, during this time watching like that 98 Bulls. But the part that interested me about the first part of Last Dance was 80s Jordan, like Jordan in college. Like, I didn't know, like, the one thing, I'm gonna ask you in a second, but the one thing that I learned that I didn't know, like, I didn't know Jordan was on an Olympic team that was all college kids coached by Bob Knight. Like, I didn't know that shit, you know what I'm saying? And, like, he was a dog during that time. And then, obviously, the 80s stuff I knew about. I didn't really watch. But him not getting through the Pistons, like, it really gives me more perspective of LeBron. Because the reason why I call Jordan the GOAT is because I've seen all of the good Jordan. And he dominated. Like, I didn't get a chance to see that bad early Jordan scoring 60 points in a playoff game and losing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we look at LeBron, and now we can mention all of LeBron's fails. You know what I'm saying? Getting swept by San Antonio in 2007. You know what I'm saying? The choke job against Dallas in 2011. Like, we can mention all of those, but when we talk about Jordan and his GOATness, we don't really mention those. So my first question is, does that take away from Jordan's GOATness to you? And obviously, what did you learn about the documentary that you ain't know about?
I don't think it does. For me, Jordan being so great is about what he did after that struggle. Like, having the struggle to get there, I don't think it takes away from it as much as, I mean, winning the 3 in a row twice. That's the crux of the Jordan legacy. So I don't think it detracts from that from me. But for me, dude, I'm learning a lot. Because, I mean, I was barely alive when the Jordan stuff happened. I was a Jordan fan because everyone was a Jordan fan. But I was a little kid, you know. I was 5, 6, 4, you know. So this is like a re-education for me. And I'm learning a lot from watching the Jordan documentary. I mean, there's stuff that you kind of were alive for and you heard about, but like now you're old enough and okay, I know how the NBA works. I get what a GM, a coach. Now I get why they, why, back when you were a kid, you're like, what do you mean? Why don't the Bulls want Michael Jordan? So it's just, I don't know. It's like getting to relive that now with the adult perspective you have. So I'm learning a lot. I mean, almost all of it is new to me as far as, hearing the stories and like I know the facts of what happened, but getting the perspective on it and kind of the, what am I trying to say here? The gray of it all, the in between, because you just kind of, as a kid, you're like, oh yeah, I grew up when, I was 1 digit ages when Jordan was in his prime / the back end of his prime. I just knew Jordan was the best. Now I get to go back and see, as someone who knows how the NBA works, how a team works, what it means to win, all the stuff that went on behind the scenes. So almost all of it is new to me in that regard. Hearing all the stories, I've enjoyed it thoroughly, man. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, like, the one thing that also interests me too, actually the whole shit interests me, but the simple fact that it's called The Last Dance because no matter what happened, they was gonna break up. Like, throughout that whole season, that never was in my mind. Like, I never knew that. I'm watching the games. Like, I never knew that, oh, dang, this is going to be their last season together. Like, what? Like, no, that never came to my mind, and I know it didn't come to a lot of people's minds neither. So the simple fact that Jerry Krause wants to, have his Napoleon complex and, want to flex and break up something. Jordan said something that was very interesting to me. I can't quote it because now I don't remember the quote, but he feels that the title should be taken. It shouldn't be surrendered. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah. He said we have a right to
beat me.
defend what's ours.
Exactly. Like we didn't lose the title. Like well, obviously 93 when they, Jordan retired and all of that for a little bit. But if you're talking about 98, like it just Phil's gone, Mike's gone, Scotty's gone, Tim Floyd. Basketball was hurting a little bit. But yeah, that was interesting to me. And then also Scottie Pippen like signing like a long year deal and just basically being like undervalued. Like I get that you want to have like the long term money, but to me that just sounds like a person who just doesn't know how to manage money. That if you can't take 17 million in 3 or 4 years, you had to take it for 7 years because you want to make sure that 6th, 7th year you got guaranteed money coming in. Who, like, even me not having money knows that. Like, how did you feel about that? Like, did you feel sorry for him, or did you, you know what I'm saying, you understand the business, I guess?
I think it comes down to, like, you got to kind of put yourself in his shoes. And I guess, the bigger money for a lot of us is probably nice, but that just shows you how much he valued the security. I think that's what you got to take away from the whole situation. Like he could have taken a lot more money, but he valued having the long-term security and sticking around. Maybe that shows you he didn't think he would be able to keep contracts, or maybe he saw the end of his career coming. I don't know, man. I think it's always hard, putting yourselves in the shoes of someone who does have money, who's turning it down, as someone who doesn't just have millions and millions of dollars. I don't know how I possibly would turn down that kind of money for one season, but I think it just goes to show you, like, he was at a point in his life where that really wasn't what mattered at all.
I mean, until 2-3 years later when he realized he was severely underpaid. 1 year Mike's making $33 million. That's the and I get all of that.
That's what I'm saying. It comes down to that short term moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some guys just never took the business part seriously enough. They just, a contract's a contract, and I want to play hoop. I mean, look at Ricky Williams. I think that's a perfect example of a career that maybe was a little derailed by his, I don't care attitude towards contracts. It was just, we're going to get the money, I'm going to get paid, I'm going to be awesome, and that's that. I don't know. I don't think it would happen modern day. I don't think you would ever see someone getting away that underpaid. So maybe in that regard, seeing the way the NBA's gone, Scottie Pippen is a little dejected by it. But I don't know. I think he's probably ultimately pretty happy with the way things have gone.
Yeah, and we also got to remember too that after Chicago, he played in Portland and Houston, so he ended up getting money. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and
after
the Pippen brand has only gotten bigger and better over time. So it's not like the dude's lacking. Like, I should have cashed out then. Like he's made the Pippen brand something.
Yeah, I believe his wife ended up like tweeting like his career earnings in basketball compared to Mike's career earnings in basketball, and Pippen actually earned more money in his career than Mike did in his career, if you're just talking about in basketball earning salary. And again, most of that happened because of Pippen on the back end, because Portland gave him a decent bag and Houston gave him a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So, other than that, I can't really fucking explain that shit. But Mike was underpaid a lot too until, that 98, 97 season where, they cashed him out like $33 million. So previewing episode 3 and 4 of The Last Dance is going to be about Dennis Rodman and more of Phil Jackson. Dennis Rodman to me was always weird, you know what I'm saying, just because like he had the color hair. Like I didn't know, at the time that I was watching Dennis Rodman, I didn't know that he had played for Detroit and he had already won some rings. You know what I'm saying? I just thought like, oh, they just got weird ass Dennis Rodman on the squad and shit. You know what I'm saying? So now being older, knowing that, plus this extra stuff that we're going to know about Dennis Rodman, the one thing that I did know about him through a documentary is that he actually was a decent hooper until they just made him be in the post and made his job be rebounds. Like kind of like, those players was like, you're not going to shoot, you're not going to score all the time, so you better learn how to do something else.
Well, I think that's kind of why, like, for the longest time, I didn't know that Dennis Rodman was actually that good at basketball. You kind of just knew him as the antics guy. He was the third big name because he was the biggest star. Like he was, out of all the remaining players on the Bulls roster, he was the one that the bulb that shone the brightest. You couldn't ignore. That's kind of why, like, as much as I'm sure everyone's going to be like, I want to hear Rodman stories. I've heard a lot of Rodman stories. They're all over YouTube. If we get a new one, awesome. I'm not going to ever say no to a new Dennis Rodman story. But what I'm coming to these 2 episodes for is to hear about kind of the behind-the-scenes stuff, the basketball aspect, just about him hooping and how he became a part of that team and how he played and how he accepted that role and what he was like at practice and what it was like. Like as much as I, can always listen to Dennis Rodman talk about, like, hookers on a yacht with cocaine or something. Like I'm honestly, because you don't hear a lot about this. I want to hear about, like, the basketball Dennis Rodman and what we don't know about that guy. Because you're right, he was, like, the guy did his job damn well. Even when he just became a rebounder and a blocker, like he did it in volume. But it's so interesting too to see a guy like that become a role player and do it voluntarily and do it without putting up a fight and saying, "Nah, the Bulls don't appreciate me." Of all the people in the world, like, he kind of took a slice of humble pie and said, "Yeah, I'm here to have a good time and win championships, and the way I'm going to do that is by rebounding." So I'm thoroughly excited to hear about the basketball Dennis Rodman these next 2 episodes.
The one dynamic that I'm kind of interested in, and it goes back into Dennis Rodman during his Detroit days, because the documentary is going to go into a little bit of the bad boy Pistons as far as how Jordan couldn't beat them. That was like the one team that, that had Jordan's number. They made the Jordan rules because of that, just straight beating him up throughout that whole entire series. And the relationship that Rodman and Jordan had, because a story that I heard on the radio a couple of days ago, they were saying how I think it was like somebody who was like a reporter or something that was always around the Bulls, like a beat reporter back in the 90s. Maybe it was Greeny or something like that. Maybe somebody, I don't know. You know how everybody said that it was around Jordan back in the 90s. So he always referred to Rodman and Sally. As a matter of fact, it was John Sally. John Sally was telling the story because this dude is funny. John Sally was telling the story, and he was basically saying how Jordan always used to call him and Rodman Pistons and Bulls jerseys, because both of them was on those Piston squads that used to whoop his ass all the time. So that dynamic of, the enemy now joining you, I'm interested in that dynamic. What you think about that?
Now I want to hear about the Jordan failures too, because, like, it's something kind of just gets lost in the whole, I guess, aura of who Michael Jordan is and being the GOAT. Like, you don't have, the struggles against the Pistons broken down in great detail. It's just kind of like, yeah, it happened, he couldn't beat them, but then he won 3-3, or it's something that, Jordan fans or LeBron fans always bring up, but it gets glossed over. Like, it's something that you just got to bring up, like, yes, it happened, and you're either bringing it up as like, hey, don't forget this, or like, yeah, it happened. Like, I'm interested in now that, the mythological figure's been built up of us, sitting down and being like, yeah, this is how the rough times happen.
Yeah, I'm pretty much interested in all of it, for real. Like, the only thing with me is that I have to watch it a day late. So, because I don't have, like, unless the site that I stream on is actively jumping or not jumping because everybody be streaming on it, I got to watch